Hello viewers, you're welcome once again. We are still under logic, Christ Almighty God's Algebra. Today we are going to treat Law of Associativity. Law of Associativity. We have Law of Associativity by Conjunctive Statement and Law of Associativity by Disjunctive Statement. But we're going to start with Law of Associativity with Conjunctive Statement. Let us start. Law of Associativity. P and bracket Q and not P is equal to P and Q and not P. This is a typical example of Law of Associativity by Conjunctive Statement. Why is it Law of Associativity by Conjunctive Statement? It's because of this connective. It's a principal connective that connects this P, the first conjunct, and Q and not P, the second conjunct. The same thing here, this and is a principal connective that connects the first conjunct P and Q and second conjunct not P. Sorry, this is first conjunct. This is second conjunct. It's not disjunct. It's conjunct. So this is the first conjunct and this is the second conjunct. And they are being connected by and connective. That's why it is conjunctive statement. So we say that it is law of associativity by conjunctive statement. Let's prove the law. So prove suppose P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P. We assume that the statement is true. We assume that the statement is true. That means P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P. So we are assuming that it is true and it's a hypothesis. So we are going to prove that it is true. See, this is true, also this also must also be true. So if and only if P and bracket Q and not P, if and only if bracket P and Q and not P is tautology. Now we have now transformed this to by conditional statement. We say that if and only if, see this is true, this also is true. If you violate this statement, you find out that it's there's no possibility of getting falsity, always truth. So you say that it is tautology, being justified by logical equivalence. By logical equivalence. If and only if P and bracket Q and not P implies bracket P and Q and not P. Is tautology. You see that since this bifurcation statement is tautology, also we transform it to a conditional statement and it still preserve tautology. That means the antecedent implies consequence is tautology. That means the antecedent is a proper implication of the consequence. So if you write this statement, does not negative falsity, always truth. You say that it is tautology, being justified by logical implication. By logical implication. If this is true, also this also must also be true. Say if and only if P and bracket Q and not P is logical implication of bracket P and Q and not P. Yes, we have now derived that antecedent is a logical implication. It's a logical implication of the consequent. It's a logical implication of the consequence by the principle of logical implication. We have done the principle of logical implication in our past tutorials. So you can go and visit the logical implication, the principle of logical implication, so that they can be acquainted with it. So it's by the principle of logical implication that we derive that P, that is the antecedent, is logical implication of the consequence. Now we say that P and bracket Q are not P, is logical implication of bracket P and Q are not P. So if and only if P and bracket Q and not P is equal to P and bracket Q and not P. That is, the logical implication is equal to itself. And it is true that logical implication is equal to itself, because whenever the right hand side of the left hand side of logical implication is true, also the right hand side of logical implication is also true. In the same vein, whenever the right hand side of logical implication is false, also the left hand side of logical implication is also false. You say it's logical equivalent. So it is true that logical implication is equal to itself, being justified by identity, the sameness. By identity. If and only if P and bracket Q and not P is equal to P and not P upon not P. You will find out that, sorry, not Q. you will find out that the right answer of the question now is now greater than the left answer of the equation. That means it's not intensification of the left answer of the equation, because left answer of the equation is equal to falsity. So it's a subset of the right hand side of the equation, which is equivalent to P and Q. So P and Q is a superset of falsity. So you say that it is intensification of the right hand of the equation is intensification of P and bracket Q and not P, being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. So it's through Christ Almighty God's grace that we transform this conjunctive statement to conditional statement. That means Q and not P to not P upon not P. It becomes intensification. So if and only if P and bracket Q and not P is equal to P upon not Q and not P. You have seen that we have now distributed this not Q to this first conjunct P. That's why we have Q upon not P and not P. And is still intensification of the left hand side of the equation. Is intensification of left hand side of the equation, because it's equivalent to not P and Q. This is equivalent to not P and the Q, which is still intensification of the left hand side equation, because left hand equation is equivalent to falsity, and falsity is a subset of the P, not P and the Q. Say is intensification of P and bracket Q and not P, being justified by the sort of implication. Is two sort of implication that we split that not Q to P. So being justified by distribution of implication, by sort of implication. We continue here. So if and only if P and bracket Q and not P is equal to. Now you are going to revise this conditional statement P and P upon not Q. You are going to revise it. That means not P implies P, not Q implies P. You are going to revise it to conjunctive statement. Reason is that implication not Q is rejected from conjunctive statement. That means from this Q and not P, the conjunctive statement. From there, you get not Q. So when you want to revise it, it's going to be also in conjunctive statement. That means you are going to have P and Q and not P. Now, it's now equivalent to later sort of equation. So it's being justified by Christ Almighty God's grace. It's through Christ Almighty God's grace that we transform this conjunctive statement to conjunctive statement. Being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. Now we then conclude. We say thus P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P. So we're going to prove the converse. We're going to prove the converse. So by the principle of essentiality, we then establish that P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P is law of associativity by conjunctive statement. So conversely, bracket P and Q and not P is equal to P and bracket Q and not P. So this is the converse of the statement. Now the left equivalent has now become right equivalent here. The right equivalent has become left equivalent here. We say that it is converse. We're going to prove the converse. We assume that it is truth. So suppose P and Q, all in bracket, and not P is equal to P and bracket Q and not P. We assume that statement is truth. We continue here. Say if and only if this is true, this also must also be true. Bracket P and Q and not P, if and only if P and bracket Q and not P is tautology. We assume that this statement has not been converted to by conditional statement and is tautology. That means it is truth. Because when you read the statement, there's no possible negative positive, always truth. We say is or is tautology, being justified by logical equivalent. By logical equivalent. So if and only if P and Q and not P implies P and bracket Q and not P is tautology. We see that this biological statement, the tautology, has now been also transformed to conditional statement and is still preserved tautology, being justified by logical implication. Being justified by logical implication. So this is true. Also, this also must also be true. Say if and only if bracket P and Q and not P is logical implication of P and bracket Q and not P. And not P. That means, since this is tautology, then the antecedent is logical implication of the consequence by principle of logical implication. We derive that. So we have done principle of logical implication in our previous tutorial. So you can go back to our previous tutorial to be acquainted with principle of logical implication. So if and only if bracket P and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P. That means the logical implication, if P and Q all in bracket and not P is logical implication, also logical implication is equal to itself by the logical equivalent. We say that whenever the left-hand side of the equation is true, also the right-hand side equation is also true. In the same vein, whenever the right-hand equation is false, also the left-hand side equation is also false. We say it is logical equivalent. So it is true that logical implication is equal to itself, being justified by identity. Being justified by identity. If and only if, or let's continue to this side. If and only if bracket P and Q and not P and not P is equal to Q upon not, P upon not Q and not P. You see that we have now transformed this P and Q, the conjunctive statement, to conditional statement through Christ Almighty God's grace. I say that it's no more equivalent. It's not intensification. The right hand side equation is intensification of the left hand side of the equation. Because left hand side equation is equivalent to falsity. While this statement is equivalent to not P and Q. It's equivalent to not P and the Q. So it's an intensification of falsity. Because falsity is a subset of not P and the Q. You say is intensification of bracket P and Q and not P. Being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. If and only if P and Q all in brackets and not P is equal to. We are going to revise this conditional statement to conjunctive statement because this not Q is being generated from the conjunctive statement. That means this conjunctive statement P and the Q. So the not Q is being generated from the conjunctive statement and this implication Q. So what we write it is going to be in conjunctive statement. That means we're going to have P and Q and not P. I'm going to distribute it. I'm going to distribute this not Q to this not P. The second disjunct. That means we're going to have P and not P upon not Q. I've now distributed it to the second conjunct. That's why I have P and not P upon not Q. You will find out that it's still intensification of the left hand side of the equation. It's still intensification of the left hand side of the equation. Now, because this is equivalent to P, it's equivalent to P. Not Q implies not P and P is equal to P. Is equal to P. Sorry. Or let's do it. That means you have not Q implies, they use other ink. That means not Q implies not P and P. Here we have 0, 1, 0, 1. Here we have 0, 0, 1, 1. Here you have 1, 1, 0, 0. So we can only obtain falsity whenever the the antecedent is true, while the consequent is false. So here is true, here is false. Here is true, here is true. So is here and so the two conjuncts, you can obtain false truth when the conjuncts are truth. So here we have truth in this conjunct, sorry, we have in this conjunct, have truth in this conjunct, and it is true. Here is false, here is true, it's false. Here is true, here is false, is false. Here is true, here is false, is false. So this P and Q upon this P and not P upon not Q is equivalent to P and the Q. So it's not P, it's equivalent to P and the Q. So you see that it is the intersection of the falsity. The falsity is a subset of P and the Q. We say that it is intensification of the left hand side of the equation. We say that is intensification of bracket P and Q and not P. Being justified by distribution of implication. So it's through this sort of implication that we distribute this not Q to the second conjunct not P. P and bracket not P upon not Q. Consider this side. So if and only if P and now we are going sorry if and only if bracket P and Q and not P is equal to P and now we're going to now revise this statement not P upon not P to conjunctive statement because this not Q is being generated from the conjunctive statement. So that's why we're going to revise it to conjunctive statement. That is going to be bracket Q and not P. You see now it's not equivalent. It's now equivalent. But we revise this conjunctive statement to conjunctive statement through Christ Almighty God's grace. So it is justified by Christ Almighty God's grace. Being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. So we have now proved the converse. We then conclude saying thus bracket P and Q and not P is equal to P and bracket Q and not P is the converse of law of associativity. So having proved the converse by the principle of equality, we then establish that P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and the Q and not P is law of associativity by conjunctive statement. Therefore, therefore, P and bracket Q and not P is equal to bracket P and Q and not P is law of associativity by conjunctive statement. So we have proved that law of associativity exists. So at this juncture, we shall draw our curtain. Thank you, viewers.